The CEO told me I was just IT, so I legally shut down his entire billion-dollar company Reddit stories. A smug executive underestimated the one system keeping his company alive. One licensing clause turned corporate arrogance into total collapse overnight. Hi, I'm Joel, 37, and 6 months ago I accidentally detonated a billion-dollar company with nothing more than a licensing clause, a kill switch, and the kind of rage only a smug CEO can produce. People love to romanticize tech guys as wizards, geniuses, hackers. I was none of those. I was the guy everyone called when Outlook froze or Carol from accounting clicked another phishing link. After 9 years at Apex Solutions, I'd learned 2 universal truths. No one knows what IT does. Everyone blames IT for everything. So when the CEO, Gregory, 34, MBA scented, imported straight from Stanford's How to Ruin a Company in 90 Days program, looked me right in the eye and said, "You're just the IT guy. You don't matter." I didn't argue. I didn't negotiate. I didn't even blink. Because the man had no idea, zero, none, less than none, that the entire empire he just decided to optimize ran on software I built myself. In my apartment. On a desk propped up with 2 old textbooks. Because our old system was held together with duct tape, panic, and Ron's blood pressure medication. He thought he was cutting my salary. What he was actually doing was breaching my licensing agreement. Which meant that, legally, beautifully, deliciously, I could revoke their right to use the one thing keeping their lights on. And when I finally did, when I clicked that little box that said terminate license, Apex's stock didn't just fall. It cratered. 80% in a single night. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the moment everything truly snapped. It was March 15th, a Thursday, the kind of day when nothing special is supposed to happen. I got called into conference room B, the same one they used for firing people because it had no windows and no witnesses. Gregory sat there with his CFO, Amanda, and a lawyer who looked like his personality had been ironed out of him. They slid a folder across the table. A 28% pay cut. Benefits gutted. Vacation slashed. Bonus removed. Like they were trimming the crust off a sandwich. I reminded them, politely, that I built the entire system the company relied on. Gregory smiled the kind of smile men smile when they're too dumb to recognize the sound of a loaded gun. "Joel," he said, "you reset passwords. You're not mission critical." 9 years. Hundreds of saved contracts. Countless nights spent nursing that system like it was a colicky infant. But sure. Not mission critical. I signed the paperwork with a calmness that, in retrospect, should have terrified them. Because while they were busy high-fiving themselves for saving 30 grand a year, I was already thinking about Clause 7, Subsection 3, compensation must remain consistent to maintain licensing rights. They broke the deal. Which meant I wasn't the one in trouble. They were. And before the sun set on that Friday, the kill switch would prove it. So there I was on March 15th, sitting in my car in the Apex parking garage, staring at my trembling hands on the steering wheel like they belonged to someone else. I wasn't scared. I was vibrating with the kind of fury that makes you understand why people punch drywall. I called Kevin. Kevin is my lawyer friend, the kind of man who reads contracts the way normal people read murder mysteries. I told him everything. Every insult. Every clause. Every smug smile. He didn't even let me finish before saying, "Joel, they what?" I repeated it. He went quiet for a long moment, the kind of silence that means someone is mentally shuffling through legal artillery. Then he exhaled like he just discovered buried treasure. "Oh my God!" "They breached. Joel, they breached." I blinked. "Meaning what exactly?" "Meaning," he said, already typing furiously, "you can revoke their license immediately. As in, right now. As in, the second you do it, everything they rely on your software for, every operation, every contract, every workflow, will cease to exist." I sat there for a good 10 seconds, processing the idea that the not mission critical password gremlin was apparently holding an unplugged grenade. Is it legal? I asked. Not just legal, he said. It's pristine. They gutted your compensation without negotiating. That's a direct violation of the licensing terms. They broke the deal first. You are simply enforcing it. Enforcing it. What a polite way of describing professional annihilation. Kevin and I met that night at a coffee shop. He ordered chamomile tea because he claims caffeine makes him too aggressive. Which, sure, okay. Meanwhile, I was 6 espresso shots deep and emotionally prepared to suplex a filing cabinet. For 3 hours, we drafted the revocation notice. Formal language, precise citations, screenshots of the pay cuts. The exact timestamp of Gregory saying I just fix computers. Bulletproof. By 10:37 p.m. it was ready. Once we send this, Kevin warned, the system will lock them out automatically. It's immediate, Joel. There's no going back. I thought about it. Thought about 9 years of overtime emails that started with, sorry to bother you on your day off, but thought about the 18 months I spent building the platform after losing Rebecca. Thought about Gregory's voice telling me I wasn't important. I took a breath. Hit send. The document went to the CEO, CFO, board, legal department, and, just because Kevin is spiteful, to the general company council mailing list. We closed the laptop. Sat back. Stared at each other like two men who had just pushed a button that might, hypothetically, topple civilization. What do we do now? I asked. Kevin shrugged calmly. Now? You go to bed. I did not go to bed. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling like it owed me money, imagining every possible future. Apex collapsing. Gregory screaming. The stock freezing. People panicking. My career turning into a myth whispered by interns. And then Friday came. The day everything went quiet before everything exploded. At 9:17 a.m. on Friday, March 22nd, my desk phone rang, the kind of ring that already tells you someone on the other end is sweating. It was Gregory's assistant, her voice an octave higher than usual. Joel, Mr. Chen needs to see you immediately. Not as soon as you can. Not when you're free. Immediately. Which, in corporate language, means the fire is already consuming the curtains. I took my time walking to his office because sometimes a man needs to savor the aroma of impending justice. When I arrived, the door was open. Phones were ringing behind him. Papers were scattered across his desk. He was mid-call with someone, sweating through his dress shirt. He saw me, slammed the phone down like it had personally insulted him. What the hell is this? He snapped, waving the printed revocation notice like it was radioactive. A legally binding termination of your licensing rights, I said calmly. You'll find Section 4, 2 addresses. You shut down the entire company. I didn't shut anything down. You breached the contract. The system simply responded. Gregory's eyes were wild, the kind of wild that only appears when a man realizes he's built his empire on a foundation of Jenga blocks and spite. Turn it back on. No. Chair slam. Desk slam. The whole greatest hits of the insecure CEO. You listen to me. He hissed. We can fix your compensation. We can renegotiate. But you cannot hold this company hostage. You held my salary hostage first. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a goldfish trying to argue case law. I'm the CEO. He finally barked. I can fire you. You can't. I nodded. But firing me doesn't magically give you rights to software you no longer legally own. Silence. Thick. Horrified. Humiliating. He had finally realized the trapdoor he'd enthusiastically danced across. You're insane, he whispered. Do you know what you've done? Yes, I said. For the first time in 9 years, I enforced a boundary. I left his office to the soundtrack of muffled shouting, sprinting footsteps, and someone somewhere loudly asking why the billing dashboard was now displaying a cheerful message that said, License invalid, See primary system owner. At exactly 4:47 p.m. that afternoon, the kill switch activated. Monitors across the building went dark. Terminals logged out. The operations pipeline froze mid-task. Payroll locked. Client portals crashed. Servers halted. Every automation shut itself off like the world's most expensive Christmas lights. Across 3 states, over 400 employees collectively made the same confused sound. Panic spread like Wi-Fi. Calls poured into my phone. Emails stacked up like a digital avalanche. Gregory tried calling me 7 times in 4 minutes. I ignored all of it, went home, heated leftover pad thai, and watched 3 episodes of a baking show while Apex Solutions experienced what historians might someday refer to as the Great Corporate Purge of 2024. Saturday, the headlines hit. Apex Solutions stock plummets 34%. System failure halts all operations. CEO under fire as crisis unfolds. By Sunday morning, the drop hit 62%. By Monday afternoon, the board officially entered what I can only describe as "we need the IT guy" panic mode. And by Tuesday, they were ready to talk. Tuesday morning felt like walking into the aftermath of a tornado, but a very expensive one, wearing business casual attire. Security at the Apex building looked like they were screening for fugitives. Employees were clustered in little panic huddles whispering things like, "Do we still have jobs?" and "Is this Y2K but now?" Kevin walked beside me, calm as ever, holding a leather briefcase that I'm 97% sure he chooses specifically for intimidation purposes. We took the elevator to the executive floor, which looked less like a workplace and more like a crime scene where the victim was competence. The entire board was waiting in the largest conference room. 8 members, all looking like they hadn't slept since Thursday, which, given the situation, wouldn't surprise me. At the far end sat Gregory, eyes hollow, hair messy, tie limp. A man unraveling in real time. Harrison, the board chair, stood when we entered, old school professional courtesy, something Gregory never once offered. "Joel. Kevin. Thank you for joining us," he said, voice tight from exhaustion. Translation. "We are ready to beg." We sat. Kevin opened his briefcase with the serene confidence of a man who knows he's about to be the smartest person in the room. Harrison began. "We understand there has been a serious misunderstanding." I almost laughed. "A misunderstanding? That's what you call forgetting to buy milk, not detonating your entire operational infrastructure." Kevin steepled his fingers like a man posing for the cover of Lawyer Monthly. "No misunderstanding," he said. "A breach. A contractual breach by Apex Solutions, allowing Mr. Joel to revoke licensing rights." Patricia, one of the quieter board members, sharp eyes, sharper brain, leaned forward. "We've reviewed the agreement. He's correct." Gregory flinched like the words physically struck him. "We are prepared to negotiate." Harrison continued. "We'd like to hear your terms." Kevin slid a document across the table like he was dealing a card in a very high-stakes poker game. $8 million as a one-time licensing buy-in. $2 million annually for continued use. Full restoration of my original compensation. A 40% salary increase. Ironclad employment protection. And then the final line. Gregory's resignation. The room froze. The silence was so complete you could have heard a spreadsheet screaming. Gregory exploded out of his chair. "Absolutely not. This is insane. This is extortion. This—" "Sit down, Gregory," Harrison said, without raising his voice. He didn't sit. He collapsed. Back into the chair like gravity had finally caught him. Patricia looked directly at him. "Did you cut Joel's pay without reviewing the licensing terms?" Gregory's jaw clenched. He didn't answer. "Did you or did you not know he owned the patent?" she pressed. Another silence. Somehow worse. "I was told it was developed internally," he muttered. "Oh my God!" another board member murmured, rubbing her temples. Harrison sighed. "The heavy kind that says?" I'm too old for this level of stupidity. You slashed the compensation of the man who legally controls our entire operational infrastructure, without reading a 6-page contract. Gregory tried to salvage the remnants of his dignity. I believed he was exaggerating his involvement. I raised my eyebrows. Exaggerating? I said. Gregory, the system literally has my initials and the source tree comments. Kevin. His initials appear 842 times, per our documentation. Gregory wilted like a houseplant left on the wrong windowsill. The vote was quick. Hands raised, 6 out of 8. Enough to ceremoniously end the shortest, most catastrophic reign of a CEO since whichever executive decided Blockbuster didn't need to buy Netflix. Gregory stared at me, eyes sharp with wounded pride and absolute disbelief. You'll regret this, he whispered. No, I said calmly. But you will. He stormed out. Amanda followed him, looking like she very much wished she had made different career choices. Harrison turned back to me. The rest of your terms, we accept. And just like that, the IT guy, they said, didn't matter, had become the most expensive man in the building. We shook hands. Wednesday morning, the wire hit. 8 million. By 10:47 a.m., I restored system access. By noon, client services were operational. By evening, the stock shot up 41%. The crisis was over. Or at least, that's what everyone thought. You'd think after detonating a company and walking away with an $8 million check, the rest of my week would feel like a victory parade. But no, returning to work after accidentally becoming corporate folklore is awkward. Like extremely awkward. Imagine walking into a building where half the people think you're a hero, a quarter think you're a villain, and the rest are terrified you might sneeze and turn off the internet again. That was Monday morning. I walked through the lobby. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. People stared at me with the reverence usually reserved for surgeons and celebrities. Someone actually whispered, "That's him." Like I was Bigfoot but with better hygiene. My team applauded when I walked into the IT bullpen. Rachel, my senior developer, greeted me with, "Welcome back, Joel. Please don't ever leave again, or warn us first so we can invest in puts." Fair. Then I rode the elevator to the top floor to meet with Patricia, now officially interim CEO. She'd already redecorated the office. Gregory's motivational garbage had been replaced with books, plants, and something radical called taste. She didn't waste time. "Joel, sit. I want to make something absolutely clear from the start." I sat, mentally preparing for either a compliment or a lawsuit. Hard to say with CEOs. "What happened to you?" she said. "Never should have happened. And it won't happen again. Not to you, not to anyone." I blinked. I wasn't used to leadership speaking in full sentences without condescension. She continued, "You built the backbone of this company. And we treated you like you were replaceable. That ends now." Then she slid a document across the desk. A new contract. Everything we'd negotiated was there. Salary restored, 40% raise, protected employment, performance-based bonus. But there was one extra line. Guaranteed minimum 5% raise annually. Guaranteed. Not subject to review. Not pending budget. Guaranteed. "Are you sure about this?" I asked. "I'm sure about valuing the people who keep the company alive," she said. "Something we clearly forgot." I signed it. Then she said the thing that stunned me more than the $8 million wire. "Going forward, I want you advising on all major operational decisions. If we do anything that touches infrastructure, you're in the room." I stared at her. "You want me in the room?" "Yes," she said. Gregory's mistake was believing he knew everything. Mine is knowing exactly what I don't know. And I don't know what you know. So I want your brain involved. Genuinely? I didn't know what to do with that level of respect. IT usually gets invited to meetings only when someone can't find the HDMI cable. But it didn't stop there. By the end of the month, my team expanded. Budgets increased. People were actually nice to IT? Weird times. The stock recovered to 85% of its former value. Clients returned. Some new ones arrived. People stopped whispering, "Are we going to die?" in the hallways. For the first time in my 9 years at Apex, the company felt stable. And then came July. The day Patricia walked into my office with a folder and said, "3 companies want to license your system." She placed the offers in front of me. Combined total: $12 million annually. "Joel," she said, "you don't just have a good product. You have an industry-changing product." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. The Apex meltdown wasn't the peak of my story. It was barely the midpoint. July changed everything. Up until then, my world had been Apex, fixing their messes, building their systems, putting bandages on their self-inflicted wounds. Even after the board practically gift-wrapped Gregory's head for me, I still thought of myself as just their guy. But when Patricia handed me that folder, 3 companies, 3 offers, 12 million combined annual licensing fees, something clicked. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't luck. I hadn't just built a tool. I'd built an ecosystem. A platform. A product that companies could run entire empires on. Apex had treated it like a fancy spreadsheet. Everyone else saw it for what it truly was: infrastructure. By August, we had negotiated and signed all 3 deals. Kevin structured everything with the same gleeful precision he used when dismantling Gregory's entire career. Each contract had terms even stronger than Apex's: exclusive modules, priority support fees, guaranteed renewal increases, external audit protections, multi-year commitments. We were printing money so quickly I half expected the Treasury Department to call. My accountant, a man who normally reacts to financial news with all the enthusiasm of a sedated turtle, actually called me at 7 a.m. one morning. "Joel," he said, voice shaking, "I just finished reviewing your filings. This is the most beautiful contract structure I've ever seen." I swear he got emotional. By September, Apex's competitors started circling too. Patricia sniffed out every offer, blocked anything that threatened exclusivity, and positioned Apex as the crown jewel client. She wasn't just a good CEO, she was strategic. The kind of leader Gregory probably thought he was when he stood in front of those motivational posters about disruption. October brought something entertaining. Gregory sued me. Not Apex. Not the board. Me. He claimed I intentionally sabotaged operations, ruined his reputation, and owed him $8 million in damages. $8 million. Kevin called me, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "This man," he wheezed, "filed a lawsuit accusing you of breaking your own licensing agreement with your own intellectual property." Joel, I truly cannot express how stupid this is. The case was dismissed so fast it barely had time to exist. The judge called it frivolous and slapped Gregory with my legal fees, $47,000. Rumors said he had to sell his condo to pay it. Couldn't have happened to a nicer man. By November, Apex had fully stabilized. Stock climbed. Clients returned. New deals landed. Patricia rebuilt trust faster than anyone predicted. My team increased to 15 people, 2 of them recruited from Microsoft who left because, quote, "We want to work somewhere that actually listens to engineers." Yeah. That one felt good. Then, in December, I got an email. From Rebecca. The ex who left me during the darkest months of building the system. The one who said I was obsessed with something that wasn't even real. The one who walked out when I was one version of myself away from burnout. The email said, "I've been following the news. You've accomplished so much. I'm proud of you. I'd love to meet and talk." I didn't delete it right away. I hovered over it. Read it twice. Then I thought about the nights alone, the empty apartment, the takeout meals, the Red Bull cans, the debugging marathons, the silence. I hit delete. No response. No explanation. No resentment. Just closure. But here's the thing, December wasn't the end. It wasn't even the twist. Because 6 months later, right when life had finally stabilized, when the licensing deals were flowing smoothly, when Apex was thriving again, something happened that no one saw coming. And when I say no one, I mean not even Kevin, who has a sixth sense for approaching disasters. 6 months after the meltdown, just when life finally stopped feeling like a corporate action movie, the universe, in its infinite sense of humor, decided to toss me a plot twist. It started on a Wednesday. A normal Wednesday. I was in my office, halfway through a lukewarm coffee and debugging a workflow issue that turned out to be caused by Gary from logistics naming a file. Final underscore real final underscore Yosethasone. XLSX. When Patricia appeared in my doorway. She only ever showed up unannounced when something big was happening. Not bad big. Not good big. Just big. Joel, she said, we have a situation. Those 4 words should be printed on a warning label for anyone in tech. I followed her to the executive conference room. The board was not there, which meant it wasn't shareholder big. Marketing wasn't there, so it wasn't PR big. Legal wasn't there, so it wasn't lawsuit big. Instead, the room was filled with people in very expensive suits. Not Apex people. Not consultants. Acquisitions people. Patricia closed the door. This is Vectoris, she said, gesturing toward the group. They're one of the largest data infrastructure firms in the country. I nodded. I'd heard of them. Hard not to, they owned half the tech stack of every startup that needed cloud hosting but didn't want to get married to Amazon. The man in the middle stepped forward. Mr. Joel, he said, smiling with the confidence of someone who has private parking at airports. We're here because we want to acquire your software. Acquire? My software? As in purchase. Not license. Purchase. I blinked. Sorry, do you mean acquire a license? No, he said. We want to buy it. Outright. Full ownership. Full rights. Full control. My stomach dropped. Patricia stiffened. Kevin, who joined by speakerphone, made a soft noise that sounded like someone watching a toddler reach for a power outlet. I'm not selling, I said. I didn't even think. The words just launched themselves out of me like they had free will. The man nodded slowly, like he expected that. We anticipated resistance, he said smoothly. That's why we're prepared to make a substantial offer. I braced myself. Then he slid a folder across the table. I opened it. Stopped breathing. They were offering $94 million. 94 million. For my system. The room tilted. I closed the folder. Patricia watched me carefully. Joel, you don't have to say anything right now. Just take a breath. I tried. My lungs were unionizing. Vectoris's lead guy continued. We'd also like to bring you on as chief systems architect. 7-year contract. Salary negotiable. Full autonomy over development direction. I blinked again. Kevin spoke through the speakerphone. We will not be making any commitments today. My client needs time to evaluate. But the Vectoris guy wasn't done. We're aware, he said, that Apex currently licenses your platform. If we proceed with acquisition, Apex's ongoing use would depend on new terms. Patricia's jaw tightened. And there it was. The threat. Not explicit, not crude, just a corporate scalpel slipped between the ribs. If I sold, Apex would lose its priority status. Its discounted licensing. Its safety net. Everything. And worse, they knew it. Patricia looked at me, not desperate, not pleading, but steady. Trusting me to make the right call. Which, ironically, made this 10 times harder. Vectoris waited. Kevin went silent. Patricia kept her eyes on me like she needed to measure which way the world was about to tilt. And for the first time since this entire saga began, I felt the weight of a decision that didn't just affect me. It affected hundreds of employees, multiple companies, the future of the product I'd built from nothing. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't justice. This was legacy. I closed the folder, pushed it back across the table, and said, I'm not selling. Not now. Not ever. I built this system to empower companies, not to let a giant swallow it whole and strip it down for parts. Vectoris exchanged looks. The lead guy clasped his hands. Mr. Joel, we urge you to reconsider. Our offer is generous. It is, I said. But it's not worth giving up control. The meeting ended. Tense. Polite. Dangerous. When the door closed behind them, Patricia exhaled for the first time in 20 minutes. You just turned down $94 million, she said quietly. I know. Why? Because I remember what it feels like to have someone else hold your entire future in their hands. I won't let anyone do that to us, or to this system, ever again. She nodded, and her expression said something I'll never forget. Not gratitude. Not relief. Respect. Deep, genuine respect. But turning down $94 million is not the kind of decision that goes unnoticed. And within a week, the consequences started rolling in. When Vectoris backed out of the building, leaving behind the faint scent of overpriced cologne and corporate intimidation, I thought the worst of it was over. It wasn't. It was the beginning of something bigger, messier, stranger, and way more dangerous than Gregory's little ego-driven salary stunt. The first sign came 3 days later. I was in my office, halfway through rewriting a module that some overeager junior dev had optimized into oblivion, when Rachel poked her head in. You have visitors, she said. Visitors. Plural. Never a good sign. 2 people were standing in the hallway, both wearing crisp suits, either looking like they knew or cared how to find the cafeteria. They flashed badges in a synchronized gesture that would have impressed a magician. Department of Commerce. Bureau of Technology Oversight. Not the friendly kind. Mr. Joel, the woman said. We need to speak with you regarding a matter of national technology interest. If you ever want to experience your soul leaving your body, hear a federal employee say the phrase, national technology interest, while staring directly at you. I led them to a meeting room. They didn't sit. We're aware, the man said, that a large-scale data infrastructure firm recently attempted to purchase the rights to your platform. Attempted. I corrected. I didn't sell. That's why we're here. He slid a folder onto the table, not an acquisition offer this time. A report. Thick. Stamped. Classified looking. This system of yours, the woman said, is becoming foundational across multiple industries. Logistics. Manufacturing. Architecture. Transportation. You're approaching the threshold of what we call critical operational penetration. That sounds concerning, I said. It is, she replied, with the warmth of a dental drill. They explained the situation. If a single privately owned technology becomes central to national infrastructure, even indirectly, the government steps in. Not to seize it. Not to control it. To regulate it. Meaning paperwork. Audits. Oversight committees. Mandatory disclosures. Security protocols written by people who still use Internet Explorer. I felt my stomach drop. Let me be clear, the man said. Your software is exceptional. But exceptional tools can become dangerous when they scale faster than the systems around them. So what do you want? I asked. The woman studied me. We want to ensure you remain independent. That surprised me. She continued, if Vectoris, or any corporation, acquired your system, they'd gain disproportionate power. Market control. Data control. Infrastructure control. We cannot allow that. The words hit me slowly. They weren't warning me about something that might happen. They were warning me about something already in motion. Vectoris wasn't done. They weren't backing off. And the government knew it. The man slid me another document. A list. 2 pages of companies, big ones, global ones, currently evaluating potential acquisition attempts, partnerships, or hostile buyouts. Companies I'd only ever seen in headlines. This, the woman said, is your future if you don't put protections in place. Protections like what? Legal. Structural. Strategic. And, she added, organizational. I frowned. Meaning? Meaning you cannot remain a one-man licensing operation. The system is too valuable. You need a company. A company. My own company. My system wasn't a side project anymore. It wasn't something I maintained between ticket queues. It had become a national-scale asset. And I was one overworked nerd with a patented code base and a very stressed lawyer. Kevin, who joined by phone again, was silent for a long moment before saying, Joel, they're right. I hated that they were right. The woman straightened her blazer. We're not here to force anything. But we strongly advise you incorporate, formalize your structure, and protect your intellectual property with more than goodwill and a licensing clause. And if I don't? I asked. The man gave me a sympathetic look. Then you'll spend the next 5 years batting away billion-dollar companies who will not take no for an answer. They left without drama, no threats, no handcuffs. Just a chilling promise that the world was shifting faster than I realized. When the door closed, Patricia looked at me. You okay? Nope, I said. Not even a little. Joel, she said calmly, you were always playing in a bigger league. Now the league finally noticed. I sat back in my chair, the government report in front of me, Vectorus's threat behind me, and a new problem forming like storm clouds. I hadn't just built a system. I'd built something everyone suddenly wanted. And the world was about to start fighting over it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear I can handle. I've been through budget meetings, broken production servers, and Gregory's quarterly innovation pep talks. My nervous system is titanium at this point. What kept me awake was the realization that I was now standing at the center of a storm I'd built with my own 2 hands. The same system I coded in a dim apartment surrounded by empty energy drink cans was now a target with a price tag approaching 9 digits. At 3:12 a.m., I was still awake, still staring at the ceiling, when my phone buzzed. It was Kevin. Of course it was Kevin. Are you up? His text read. I replied. Do you even have to ask? He called immediately. Joel, he began. We need to talk strategy. Yesterday wasn't a warning, it was an escalation. I notice, I said. You're not listening, he replied. Government intervention only happens when a technology is on the verge of becoming too big to lose. That means you are officially on the radar of people who do not play fair. I rubbed my forehead. So what's the move? We incorporate, he said. Full corporate structure. Board options. IP vaulting. Trade secret protections. A legitimate organization that can stand on its own. That sounds like stress with extra paperwork. That's because it is, Kevin said cheerfully. But it's necessary. I sighed. What if I don't want a company? Too bad, he said. You accidentally built one. He wasn't wrong. He was infuriatingly, obnoxiously correct. By morning, the path was clear. Either build something official, or get eaten alive by companies big enough to buy and sell my entire neighborhood. So I called Patricia. I expected annoyance, maybe exasperation. What I got instead was, Finally? Finally? I asked. She gestured for me to follow her into her office. Once inside, she closed the door and pulled out a binder, a thick one, like the kind you could use as a blunt weapon. I've been expecting this, she said. Frankly, I'm shocked it took this long. What is that? I asked. Your future company, she said. A preliminary structure. Legal recommendations. Financial projections. A business model. A branding proposal. And a list of potential board members. I stared. You made this already? Joel, she said, giving me the kind of look teachers give gifted students who pretend they aren't gifted. You turned Apex into a powerhouse with software you built alone. You think I didn't see this coming? I blinked, trying to process the fact that someone had believed in my future more than I had. So, she continued, sliding the binder toward me, the question isn't whether you're ready. It's whether you'll let us help. Us. Not Apex. Not the board. Her. Why? I asked. She smiled. A real smile. Not corporate. Not strategic. Because talented people build things. Visionaries build empires. And I'd like to be in the room when you build yours. I opened the binder. The first page read, Joel Technologies Incorporated Founding Infrastructure Proposal. It felt surreal. Like reading someone else's destiny. There were projected growth charts, contract estimates, licensing expansions, even a 5-year roadmap labeled Phase 1. You really think this could work? I asked quietly. I think, she said, you could build the next generation of enterprise systems, something no one has ever done before. Something the industry will follow, not fight. I flipped another page. Projected net value in 5 years. $420 million. I nearly dropped the binder. But you need a team, she added. Real engineers. Real infrastructure. A legal department. And a CEO. I frowned. Wouldn't that be me? Not necessarily, she said gently. Founders aren't always CEOs. CEOs need to navigate investors, scaling, negotiations. You need someone who understands both operations and vision. Her eyes met mine. And I want the job. I froze. Patricia, stable, sharp, competent Patricia, wanted to leave Apex to run my company. Are you serious? I asked. Deadly, she said. Apex can run without me now. But this? She tapped the binder. This needs someone who won't sell you out or let you be steamrolled by corporations 3 sizes bigger. Her voice dropped. And I won't let anyone undervalue you again. I didn't know what to say. My throat felt tight. Think about it, she said. But not too long. Word is going to get out that you declined a $94 million offer. People will start circling. She wasn't wrong. Because the very next day, they did. Emails. Calls. Meeting requests. Investors pretending to be casually interested. Venture capitalists pretending to be human. Everyone wanted a piece. But none of them were the real problem. The real problem was an email that arrived at 11:04 a.m. from a sender I didn't recognize, with a subject line that made my stomach flip. We know what you're building. And the message? It wasn't a threat. It wasn't an offer. It was a warning. The email contained just one sentence. You're not the only one building a system like yours. No signature. No metadata. No traceable header. Whoever sent it knew exactly how to disappear. I showed Kevin. He went pale. I showed Patricia. She swore under her breath. That night, long after the building emptied, I sat in my office staring at the message. Not afraid, focused. Motivated. If someone else was developing a rival system, that meant 2 things. 1. The world was shifting faster than anyone realized. 2. I wasn't just defending software anymore, I was entering a race. Apex needed me. My system needed protection. And for the first time, I understood Patricia perfectly. This wasn't a job. This wasn't revenge. This was the start of something enormous. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and made the decision out loud to no one but myself. It's time to build the company.